That's coming up. But right now we have a fantastic guest, Rami. His name is Kevin Pelton, NBA and WNBA writer for ESPN, co-host of the fabulous Pelton Cast on Twitter at KPelton. That's easy enough to find. Looking forward to getting his insight. Kevin, how are you? You are a sign of persistence. I've been trying to get you for a couple of weeks here. I finally nailed you down. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, I was pretty busy traveling around during draft week, but a little more settled today before I head down to Vegas for the Summer League action there.
All right, sounds good. So you're going to be there live and in person checking out Victor for the first time. I guess let's start there. He seems to be a guy that's really taken on this challenge of being the best. They asked him why he chose number 1 as his number, and he said it's because he wants to be the best. And all the hype, I'm sure you saw Woj say that he's not only the best prospect in basketball ever, but in team sports ever. What do you expect to see from him in Summer League?
Yeah, I'm a little worried about the hype level and the expectations here. I mean, one thing we know is that especially big men in Summer League, it's not really their style of game because the guards tend to control it. But what I think makes Victor Wembanyama so interesting, and I wrote about this in a piece that's going to be on ESPN.com tomorrow as we preview his debut, is, look, this is not, a post-up center that you have to enter the ball in and give him floor space. And this is not a pick-and-roll finishing center where he needs the point guard to develop that kind of chemistry with him. This is a guy who has the capability at 7'3", 7'4", to create his own shot off the dribble. And I think, expecting him to do that efficiently against NBA defenders, especially early in his career, is a lot to ask, but it is something we're surely going to see him do here. And we did not far away from this in Henderson, Nevada, when he played those 2 exhibition games against G League Ignite and knocked down 7 3-pointers in the first game to, really show people with only a little bit of a sense of what Wembanyama could do. And I include myself in that group, why he is such an incredible prospect.
Whether we're talking about Victor Wembanyama and whatever he does in the Summer League or what we've seen Keegan Murray do in a couple of games out here in the California Classic, 41 points last night, Kevin. I find myself asking the question, how much stock should I put in this in terms of trying to determine what this means for when things are real and it's a court full of bona fide NBA players? How much do you take out of the Summer League when evaluating these younger players?
So it's something. It's not nothing. It's always kind of tricky to put this, into context because, some people are going to argue on one extreme that, it's a disaster if guys don't play well in Summer League or hugely meaningful if they do. And on the other hand, you'll have people say that it's completely meaningless and it means nothing to their NBA career. And the answer, having looked at this a number of times historically, is somewhere in the middle where it's definitely better to play well. It's not a definitive thing, especially because, look, it's like any sample of a small handful of games. A guy gets hot from 3-point range. Josh Shelby was co-MVP of Summer League one year, and he shot like 55% from 3-point range. Obviously, that wasn't who he was in the player. Is a player. He didn't carry over. I mean, I think what Keegan Murray did last year, winning MVP honors in Vegas, was an indication of how ready he was going to be to contribute as a starter on a winning team right away. And he didn't certainly need to play Summer League, and I'm sure if the Kings hadn't been playing in front of home fans, he wouldn't have. But it's still cool to see that ability for him to, create that much of his own offense, the 41 points last night against NBA caliber defenders. And, I think that is a sign of where his game potentially can go in future years. But, with Wembanyama, I think, look, if he, shoots 4 of 16 from the field tomorrow night, it's not a sign that, he's overhyped as a prospect or anything like that. It's just one game. And that's kind of the context you need to have. It means something, but certainly not everything.
Sactown Sports, Zachariah Romney, joined by Kevin Pelton, NBA writer for ESPN. When you look at what the Kings did, me and Romney have been going back and forth about, whether or not they made necessary moves to drastically sort of improve their team. They basically brought the team back together, but they did add Sasha. So I want to know what you think about that move, and then also just how they did in the offseason. How would you grade what they did?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting because I feel like I like all the moves individually. I do wonder if maybe, it was an opportunity for them to do something more because they had this opportunity as kind of the one playoff team this summer that had a lot of cap space. And in particular, whether they maybe could have gotten younger on the wing instead of bringing back Harrison Barnes. But again, I like the value they got on Barnes on that contract. I think it's going to work out perfectly fine. It's just more of kind of the ambition to really get to that next level as a team. Vezenkov, his European numbers just jump off the page at you in terms of his efficiency last year as the EuroLeague MVP. I think it reduces the fear that it was kind of fluky shooting for him in EuroLeague, that he did the same thing in the Turkish league as well, or in the Greek league, I should say, as well last season. So, offensively, I don't think there's any question that he's going to be an effective player at the NBA, at the NBA level. It's really just a matter of whether he can guard well enough at that power forward spot to stay on the court for major minutes and take advantage of that talent.
Who do you think helped themselves the most in free agency this offseason and improved themselves the most?
So another piece I have coming on ESPN.com tomorrow is we plug those as the winners and losers of free agency. And I think in free agency specifically, I loved what Phoenix was able to do in terms of the players that they got on minimum salary contracts. You contrast this to a couple of years ago when the Lakers were signing like the 2013 All-Star team to play for them in 2020-21, and we saw how that worked out. Phoenix went out and got a lot of young players, guys in their prime, other than Eric Gordon, who I think was a great value at the minimum after making $20 million last season, and the Clippers had to debate whether to pick up, whether to guarantee his $20 million salary this year. Yuta Watanabe, Keita Bates-Diop, Drew Eubanks, obviously Chimezie Metu from the Kings. I don't think you can count on all of those guys being rotation players for them next season, but they don't need all of them to. They just need, 3 or 4 of those guys to be capable rotation players. And, I think you look at the moves they made, the fact that Denver has a lot of question marks on the bench. I think the Western Conference is a lot more interesting than it looked a week ago.
We'll get you out of here on this. Me and Rami have been going back and forth about whether or not the Kings should have given Domas the extension. I see it as he took less money than he might have been able to get because he wants to have talent around him. Rami is kind of thinking, did they have to do it? Maybe they could have used that cap space for something else. What did you make of the Domas extension?
I'm probably a little more on Rami's side here in terms of I just think they had leverage with the fact that they're giving Sabonis $8 million free that they didn't have to give him this season. He was under contract, and given that bump, I think I would have expected maybe a little bit more of a give back from Sabonis in terms of the extension part of this renegotiation and extension. But, I think to your point, if he hits free agency, he would be looking at a contract very similar to this. And, it would be maybe even a little more favorable to him in terms of some of the incentives that have to carry over from his current contract to the extension.
Kevin Pelton, NBA and WNBA writer for ESPN, co-host of the fabulous @Pelton Cast. Check him out. He's got articles coming out. Look at him. Follow him on Twitter @KPelton. Kevin, I appreciate you making the time. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
There you go. Kevin Pelton. Good stuff. So, yeah, he said he leans more towards you.
He said I'm a very smart man in
did.
A roundabout way.
But he did at the end throw me a bone and say that, he could have got more, and maybe you want to lock him up. So, but yeah, he sides with you. That's all right. You